Before I get started, I just want to say thank you for allowing us in Mexico, the most beautiful country and the most beautiful people in the world. Thank you. Now, I want to show you guys something pretty amazing. It's really incredible, actually. And it's the story behind this next clip that's so incredible. Meet Tigger. This beautiful pit bull from Waco, Texas, is rolling around in the grass and enjoying the day. You see, her birthday just passed. And if Tigger could explain herself very quickly to you guys, she'd probably tell you she loves pizza. She hates cats. And there's this squirrel family that's on the other side of the fence. Every morning they tease her. She hates them too. But that's not the most incredible part of this story. This dog's pet parents, Julie Morris and Brady, unknowingly had no idea they were raising the 10th oldest dog in the world today, a 22-year pit bull, which is incredible, and she's still going strong. And so for a lot of pet parents today, when we say 22, we're like, geez, holy smokes. You know, we've heard of like the 14 or the 15-year-old dog, but 22, is it achievable? What if I told you, my friends, that once upon a time, the 20-year-old dog may have been a natural thing? You see, if we go back 8,000 years ago, before the Bible, in the second oldest surviving piece of Western literature, there was a story that was written by Homer. And the story was called the Odyssey. And what you're seeing is a metal etching that sits above my desk. It was the first interaction between man and dog. But the clue that was in this, not a lot of people picked up on. You see, Odysseus left his house when his loyal dog Argos was just a baby. And he came back 20 years later to return to his old dog. Now, I'm not saying that the story of the Odyssey is a true story. But what I'm saying is the clue for the age of the dog could have been the fact of that time when Homer was writing it. But are we seeing that today? Are we seeing 20-year-old dogs? In 2010, the British Small Animal Veterinarian Association put together a study done on a survey. And today, if you ask, how old does a typical dog live for? 11.3 years is your answer. But that's 2010. Has there been anything updated? 10 years later, in 2014, the Kennel Club did a study on a survey of dogs, smaller cohort, but they went back 1 year. 1 year. You talk to longevity experts, they'll tell you that the dog ages 7 times faster than a human. What about cats? We got to talk about cats. Banfield's State of Health, on over 400,000 cats in their database, found that the typical cat lives to be 12. So, as pet parents today, should we settle for 10-year-old dogs and 12-year-old cats? Should this be the norm? Or is there something we can do about it? And according to the top scientists in the world, my friends, there's something that we can do about it. You see, I spent the last few years of my life collecting information because I want my dogs to live a very long time, you see. I got to sit down with the top scientists, PhDs, geneticists, microbiologists, the best of the best in cancer research, collecting data. And I do this to share it back to the people. And today, Facebook tells me that I have the largest pet health page in the world. But that's not my driver. My driver are these guys, the loves of my lives. And science tells me today that 2 of these beautiful dogs have reached the end of the line. If this is it, I should get ready to lose my dogs. But the information that I've been collecting from these researchers is profound information that will not only slow down the aging process, but will increase longevity, according to the top scientists in the world. But if I had to pick 5 simple things that all of you can do for your dogs, your cats, and yourselves, what would they be? 5 tips to help you increase your longevity. Well, the first thing is stress resistance. We're all stressed out all of the time. My coffee's too cold this morning. Wi-Fi is not working. I got 1 bar. We stress about the silliest things in the world. And stress can really affect us. In fact, if we look at some of the oldest pets in the world, Jake Perry, who set the Guinness World Record twice for a 38 and 34-year-old cat, when they said to Jake, "What on earth did you do, Jake?" He said, "Well, you know what? I built my cats a movie theater. And if they're stressed out, they watch movies at the end of the night." May seem crazy, but look what he's achieved. In fact, there's researchers right now traveling around the world researching Rottweilers. Rottweilers die of cancer really early, you see, around 8 or 9. And what the researchers want to know, the Rottweilers that live to be like 15 or 16, what was so special about them? They had no stress in their lives. Now, we can come home and we can say, "I got in a fight with somebody this morning. They pissed me off. I'm so angry, but I'm over it. And my dog can't tell." But not according to science. According to science, your dog can smell if you had a fight earlier on in the day or the day before. And what's worse is they can adapt to that emotion that you were feeling. You see, I had to travel all the way to the other side of the world, to the University of Naples, where I got to sit down with Dr. Biagio Daniello and his team of scientists. And they were conducting a mind-blowing study that literally made major media headlines all over the world. They were collecting sweat samples, people who watched happy movies and people who watched scary movies. And they collected this sweat in bottles, and then they did this unbelievable study in a small room where there was a pet owner on one side and a stranger on the other. If they were to take the sweat of somebody that was happy, random person, and put it in the middle, how would the dog react? And it was unbelievable. The second the dog smelt the happy sweat, the dog instantly became happy and wanted to meet the stranger on the other side. But what would happen if they put the sweat of the person who watched this scary movie? Instantly, when the dogs would smell it, they would run. They would hide behind the owner. Some dogs would be so scared they would press up against the wall and they would want to make no interaction with anybody. And what the scientists found was that these dogs were not only smelling these emotions, but they were also adapting into those emotions. And so what's hugely important, and the one tip that we can talk about is, man, try to get rid of some of the stress in your life. Do some yoga, meditate, go for a walk, whatever you can do. It will affect your pet dramatically and yourself, believe me. When I asked the scientists, what piece of advice would you like to give to the world? Take more showers. Wipe the sweat off of you so your dog can't smell it. The second tip we would talk about, and this one is really important, caloric restriction. If you talk to the top scientists in the world, you said, how did we go from 11.3 years all the way to 10? How did we do that? Scientists will tell you it's caloric restriction. That's the problem. Why? If we were to look at the pet obesity statistics worldwide right now, let's take the top 8 countries in the world, my friends. We are seeing a huge increase in pet obesity. If you were to average all the major countries around the world, over 51% of animals, dogs and cats, are overweight or obese today. That's a huge problem. So what can we do? In the first study of its kind, scientists wanted to know what would happen if they took 2 groups of dogs. One group is the way that we all feed our dogs. Just put food in the bowl, he'll eat when he wants to eat. And in the other group, let's just take 25% out of the bowl. What could that do to the overall longevity of the animal? 25%. After the lifetime study from birth to death, the scientists found that just by reducing food by 25%, you could increase the lifespan of your animal by 2 extra years. Remember, longevity experts say that animals age 7 times faster. Do the math. So it's hugely important that we don't feed our animals out of love because we can shorten their lifespans dramatically. Food should nourish you, but it shouldn't hurt you. Okay. The third tip that I could give you today is insulin signaling. This one's tough. I had a hard time with a lot of scientists with this one. But here's what we know. Eat a lot of sugar, eat a lot of starch, and your blood sugars are going to go up. And when your blood sugars goes up, your body does something and releases something called insulin. Now, here's what we know today in science. You release a lot of insulin, it can be toxic. Too much insulin can be inflammatory. Too much insulin can age you and can cell replicate. Now, I had just mentioned to you that eating a lot of sugars and starches, what's the big deal? You can't make pet food. Kibble without getting to stick. Try to make a cookie without starch. Can't do it. So the pet food manufacturer has to add starch to the food. The problem, pet owners have no idea how much is in it. These starches, aka carbohydrates, are a major macronutrient. So if the pet owner looks up and down on a bag of food, he's not going to see it. The pet food manufacturer will tell you how much fat's in there. That's a macronutrient. They'll tell you how much protein's in there. That's a macronutrient. But what about the macronutrient that can fuel your animal? You should know about that. The entire bowl, over 50% of the bowl is a macronutrient that feeds your animal, and that's carbohydrates. And let me tell you, consuming that many carbohydrates, according to science, can age your pet dramatically. Now, there's an equation that the pet food manufacturers will tell you, well, hey, it's online. You just go in there and do the math yourself. Who on earth does that? Here's the thing. I sat down with Dr. Richard Patton, 40-year nutritionist, the man who helped formulate all of these foods. And I asked him, Dr. Patton, how much starch is too much starch? And he said to me, Rodney, if you go back in time, before the pet food revolution of 100 years ago, dogs ate meat, seeds, nuts, berries, you name it. Add it all up, it's 4% carbohydrates. Today's dog and cat is consuming anywhere between 50 to 70% carbohydrates. And unless you're testing your dog's blood sugars every single day, my friends, unless you're pricking your animals and you're taking them into your veterinarian and you're testing their insulin levels, you could be aging them very quickly. So it's very important as pet parents around the world, we learn how much starches are in our foods. The fourth tip is repair of damage. Now, this one's big. If you damage your cells, you have to fix your cells. And how do you do that? Talk to any health expert in the world, and they'll tell you that your entire immune system is your gut. And when you have a healthy immune system, you're going to repair cells, whether you're a human, whether you're a dog, or whether you're a cat. But what helps a healthy immune system? I traveled all the way to Udine, the University of Udine, a very tough one for me, an Italian word, where these scientists were doing something unbelievable. Two scientists, Dr. Misa Sandri and Dr. Bruno Stefanon. And these scientists wanted to know if feeding dogs a certain type of food would help their microbiome, make their immune system healthier. And so they went through a lot of crap. Literally, like a lot of poop. Analyzing the microbiome of animals, the bacteria that's inside the poop. And what they found was fascinating. What these scientists did was they took two panels of dogs. On one side, the dogs ate the traditional diet of kibble, the dry food in the bowl. Here's what's really cool. On the other side, they replicated that same bowl, but they just didn't cook it. It's the same bowl uncooked with fresh vegetables and fresh meats. And so what kind of impact would that have on animals? Under a microscope, the results were unbelievable. The animals that ate the bowl uncooked not only had a better microbiome, but a more diverse microbiome. So when I traveled to the university in London, King's College, Dr. Tim Spector, one of the most cited scientists in the entire world, microbiologist, he told me, my friend, the more diverse that your dog and cat's bellies are, the longer they'll live. And if there's ever a time to add a little bit of fresh food that the good Lord put on this planet for all of us to share, share it with your pets. Okay, the last tip of the day for you guys, what would it be? Environmental factors. Now, this is a tough category to cover. This could be toxins, lawn pesticides, floor cleaners, candles. I wanted to pick one easy that you could all do. And what was that? Exercise. It's an environmental factor. Some of you say, "May, what's the big deal?" If we took two of some of the oldest living dogs in the world, the 31-year-old dog Maggie, who just passed away a couple years ago, God love her, and the 25-year-old vegan dog named Bramble, what did these two dogs have in common? You see, if you asked Ann Heritage, Bramble's mother, she said the one thing that she did that was critical was exercise. Well, I like to walk my dogs 20 minutes around the neighborhood. That's a joke. She gave her dog 2 hours of exercise every single day, plus swimming. My 20-minute walk is a joke. And here's what's even crazier. When they asked Brian McLaren, the man who put together the oldest dog in the world, and they said to him, "Brian, how much exercise did you give your animal?" Now remember, exercise lowers stress, lowers blood sugars, lowers insulin. It's the cheapest form of therapy today. Brian McLaren said, "Well, I didn't really exercise my dog. You see, I would drive my tractor, my dog would follow me from one end of the farm. It was only 10 kilometers. And then I would have to drive all the way back to the other side of the farm. It was only 10 kilometers, maybe about 20 kilometers a day. every single day. Exercise is critical. Here's the thing. We need more Tiggers on this planet. This list that I share with you, my friends, is not for those people who say, it's just a dog or cat. I'm okay with 10 or 12, it's fine. Don't bother with this list. This list is for that pet parent who lays up at night and stares at the ceiling, and in his soul, he's ripped apart when he thinks about the moment that he has to lose his pet, his best friend. This list, my friend, is for that pet owner. I hope this inspires you and these tips help you create the forever pet. Thank you.